Before we even start answering, how many solutions does each one of these have? 2. How do you know by looking at the equation how many solutions it's going to have? Look at the exponent. The biggest exponent tells me how many solutions I'm going to have. This tells me right here that it has 2 solutions. What can I do to start to solve this one? I want to get x all alone. Add 64 to both sides. Yep. All right, so I'm going to have x squared equals 64. Where do I go from here? Square root it. If you do it to one side, we got to do it to the other side. But we said we're going to get how many answers? 2. One that is positive, and the other one is negative. So plus or minus the square root of 64? 8. So x is equal to plus or minus 8. X is equal to 8. Or x is equal to negative 8. There's my 2 answers. On number 2, what do I do? Add 36 to both sides. All right, so I get 2x squared equals 36. Divide by 2. What is 36 divided by 2?
16.
Close. 18. 18. Square root it. Squared and square root cancel each other out. We get how many answers? 2. So x equals plus or minus the square root of 18. Can I simplify the square root of 18 at all? It's not going to come out to be a whole number, but I want to know whether or not it simplifies. 9 times what? 9 times 2. Why do we like this 9? It's a perfect square. What is the square root of 9? 3. Can we do the square root of 2? No. Then I leave it as the square root of 2. So x is equal to positive or negative 3 square root of 2. That means x equals 3 square root of 2, or x equals negative 3 square root of 2. Last one. What do I do first? Add 16 to both sides. So I have negative x squared equals 16. What do I do next? Take the negative away. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. So I have x squared equals what? Negative 16. How do I get rid of the squared now? Square root both sides. How many answers? 2. Positive or negative square root of negative 16. Is there a problem? Negative. Yes. Square root of negative 16, I need to break apart to be 16 times negative 1. So I have the square root of 16 times the square root of negative 1. Square root of 16 is a whole number. What is it? 4. What is the square root of negative 1? I. So x is equal to positive or negative 4i. X equals 4i or x equals negative 4i. I will answer any questions you guys have off of your reviews. We did problem number 1 together in class yesterday, but that still leaves several other questions. I think that still leaves us 11 other questions. What else would you guys like to see or go over? Number which one? Number 2, absolutely. All right. On number 2, I'm going to use my axis of symmetry on every single one of these equations. Yes, you get all those formulas in the same order on the test. Yep. You asked for another one yesterday.
I got 3.
You have 4.
No wonder I ran out yesterday.
You're making it work.
Looking at the graphs, how do I find the axis of symmetry?
It's the one in the. I don't even know. Where point?
It's going to go right through what? Thank you, sir.
No, thanks.
It's going to go right through the middle, right through the vertex. And I'm looking at the x part of that ordered pair. So I'm looking at my graphs first. Where is this axis of symmetry at? 1. All right, so that is x equals 1. What about G? Where is that axis of symmetry? -1. It's running right over here. Where's the axis of symmetry on F?
We need some help.
Paper towels are right over here.
She thought she was over 21.
All right. I've got 2 graphs where the axis of symmetry is both -1. How am I going to tell them apart?
By the 2.
The way it opens. One of them opens up and has an axis of symmetry of -1. The other one opens down. Yes, ma'am. Okay. We'll come back to it if you remember. Where's the axis of symmetry on H? 1. So I've got the same issue here. 2 of my graphs have an axis of symmetry at 1. 2 of my graphs have an axis of symmetry at -1. So what I'm going to use when I come over here to the equation part, I'm going to use my formula for the axis of symmetry. I'll at least be able to get it narrowed down with that. So x equals -b over 2a. Where do I go to find a, b, and c? What is my a? 1. What is b? -2. All right, so when I substitute in, I have negative, and then I substitute in my b value over 2 times my a value, which you guys told me was 1. So what do I have up in my numerator then? What's in front of the 2? Negative. So this is going to be -2 in my numerator. What do I have in the denominator?
Why is it -2?
The negative came from right here. It's part of that axis of symmetry formula.
But the b is also
Oh, good point. Thank you. Nope. I wrote that down wrong. Thank you for correcting me. the b value was a -2. Somehow my brain missed that. So since I have two negatives, becomes a positive. What do I have in the denominator? 2. Miranda, thank you for pointing that out. 2 over 2 is what? 1. So my axis of symmetry is x equals 1. Which two graphs could this possibly be? E or H? How do I decide between E and H? They have the same axis of symmetry. We've got two different ways we could narrow this down. Which way is it opening? Which piece determines that? A, the one next to x squared. If this is a positive, it opens up. If A is a negative number, then it opens down. A was a positive here, so it opens up. Here's the other thing that you can look at. Check out that C value. That is your y-intercept. That is another way to narrow that down. Graph H opens up, and it has a y-intercept of -8. So this one goes with A. Let's do axis of symmetry on B. X equals -b over 2a. What is our B value here? 2. Let me see if I can get this one right. What is our A value? -1. So I have -2 over -2. What's -2 divided by -2? 1. This one has the exact same axis of symmetry. What's its y-intercept? 8. Does it open up or open down? Opens down. My A value is negative. Which one has an axis of symmetry at 1, opens down, and has a y-intercept at 8? E. Here's my y-intercept right there. So this one goes with graph, or with equation B. So still C and D. X equals -b over 2a. What is our B value here? 2. Over 2 times A, what is our A value? 1. So I have -2 over 2. Does that simplify at all? What's it simplified to? -1. So x equals -1. Where's the y-intercept? -8. Does it open up or down? Does equation C open up or down? Up. Why? Yes, right here, A is positive. So it's going to open up like a cup. Which graph is opening up, has a y-intercept of -8 and an axis of symmetry of -1? G. So this goes with equation C. So F goes with which one? D. We have a y-intercept of 8. It opens down. And if I do negative b over 2a, that's going to simplify to be 2 over negative 2. So it simplifies to negative 1. So axis of symmetry of negative 1. Y-intercept of 8 opens down. What else would you guys like to see? Number 7, absolutely. As I pass it, don't forget, guys, on number 4, that middle one should have been a minus 21. In your printed packet, it says plus, but it should have been a minus. Please make sure to make that change. Number 4, the middle equation should have had a minus 21. Number 7, we need to find the vertex of this graph, and we need to interpret it. My vertex is HK. How can I find H? We can change it to vertex form. We could also find the axis of symmetry. Either one of those would work. So to find H, use x equals negative b over 2a. So I have negative, and then I'm going to substitute in, what is our b value here? 192. Over 2 times a, what is our a value? Negative 32. So up in my numerator, I have negative 192. Down in my denominator, I have negative 64. Grab your calculators real quick and tell me what you get when you divide those two. Three. So x equals 3. That's part of my vertex here. I don't know the y part. To find the y part, to find k, we're going to sub h into the equation. So my equation, negative 32, and then it is t squared, so that's where I'm going to put the 3 and square it, plus 192, we're going to put 3 in here again, plus 9. What's 3 squared? 9. So I have negative 32 times 9 plus 192 times 3 plus 9. What is negative 32 times 9? I got negative 288. What is 192 times 3? 576 plus 9. I want to add all of those together. What do I get when I add those together? 297. So that goes in for the y part. Now I have to interpret it. Which one of those is the feet and which one of those is the seconds?
30 seconds.
3 seconds, yes. Here's my time. So 3 seconds after the launch, it reaches a height of what? 297 feet. Height of 297 feet after 3 seconds. So my axis of symmetry finds my x value. In this particular equation, even though they didn't use x and y, t is where x normally is. That's how I knew it had to be the x part of the ordered pair. And then the output that it gives me is the height. What else would you guys like to look at? 9? Absolutely. Nine has a bunch of pieces to it, doesn't it? Okay. On part A, what are we supposed to do with these two complex numbers? Add them together. Whenever we're adding them together, we line them up and combine. 4 plus 2i, 5 minus 8i, add them up. Combine your real parts. What do you get when you combine the 4 and the 5? 9. What do you get when you combine 2i and negative 8i? Negative 6i. What are we supposed to do on part B? Subtract. So I'm going to take this subtraction. I'm going to distribute that to both pieces. Nothing changes to the first number. I distribute to the second number. And then we combine them together. What do I get when I combine my real parts? Negative 4, negative 6, put them together and get negative 10. 3i and 4i, put them together and get 7i. Part C, what am I supposed to be doing here? Subtracting, so I'm going to distribute my negative. I leave the first one alone. I just recopy the first number, negative 3 plus 2i. With the second one, I distribute first. So that becomes 3 minus 5i. What happens when I put negative 3 and positive 3 together? 0. That part cancels. What about 2i minus 5i? Negative 3i. What operation is showing on part D? Multiplication. For multiplication, I don't line them up. Addition and subtraction, I line them up. Multiplication, we are going to use double distribution. So I'm going to take this 2 in front, and I'm going to distribute it to both pieces. What's 2 times 3? 6. What's 2 times 4i? 8i. Then I have to take this negative 2i and distribute it to both pieces. What's negative 2i times 3? Negative 6i. What's negative 2i times 4i? Negative 8i squared. I times I gives me I squared. Do I have any like terms to combine together? Yep. These two that both have the i's. What do we know about I squared? What is that the same as? Negative 1. So I have 6 plus 2i minus 8 times negative 1. The I squared gets replaced with a negative 1. What is negative 8 times negative 1? Just regular old 8. So I have 6 plus 2i plus 8. Have I combined all of my like terms together? What can I still combine? 6 and 8. What is 6 plus 8? So I have 14 plus 2i. On part E, what are we doing? Multiplication. So I'm going to take this 4 and distribute it to both pieces. 4 times 3? 12. 4 times negative 2i. Negative 8i or minus 8i. Then we take this negative I and distribute it to both pieces. What is negative I times 3? Negative 3i. What is negative I times negative 2i?
2i squared.
Yep, positive 2i squared. What can I put together? Negative 8i, negative 3i. I squared gets replaced with what? Negative 1. So I have 12 minus 11i plus 2 times negative 1. What is 2 times negative 1? Negative 2. And then I'm going to combine 12 and negative 2 together and get what? 12 minus 2? 10. So 10 minus 11i. What do you notice about part F? There's square roots. What's underneath the square roots? Negatives. So the first thing I'm going to do is take that negative 1 out. So I'm going to have the square root of 6 times the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 4 times the square root of negative 1. What is the square root of negative 1? I. What's the square root of 4? 2. What about the square root of 6?
3.
I can break it down to 3 and 2. Is 6 a perfect square? Something times itself that gives me 6? Can I break down square root of 2 at all? What about square root of 3? No. So this is as simplified as it gets. What is I times I? I squared. All right, so I have 2i squared square root of 6. But you guys just told me a moment ago that I squared is the same as what? Negative 1. So this is really 2 times negative 1 times the square root of 6. What's 2 times negative 1? Negative 2 square root of 6. What is the square root of negative 81? Or can I break it down? Let's get the negative out of there. So the square root of 81 times negative 1. So square root of 81 times the square root of negative 1. Do you know the square root of 81? 9. What about the square root of negative 1? I. So this is going to be 9i. Let's do part H, similar to what we did on F. I'm going to get those negative 1s out of there. So I have the square root of 27 times the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 9 times the square root of negative 1. Square root of -1 is I. Do we know the square root of 9? Okay, so I have I times 3, and then I still have this square root of 27. Is that a perfect square? No. Can I break it down at all? What multiplies to give you 27? 9 times 3. So square root of 9 times the square root of 3. I know the square root of 9. What is the square root of 9? 3. Can we do the square root of 3? Is that a perfect square? Can we break it down more? Then we just leave it as the square root of 3. I times I is what? I squared. So I have 9 I squared square root of 3. What do I replace an I squared with? -1. So I'm doing -1 times 9. So I have -9 square root of 3. We've got 8 minutes left in class. Depending on the question, I can do 1 or 2 more. What else would you guys like to see?
Wait, don't erase.
I'm not erasing anything. And my entire answer key is posted too. Number 12? Absolutely. Very last one on the back side. This is a great one for us to go over. We want to solve this. What process should I use? Starts with an S, substitution. So I'm going to take x squared. It's going to take the place of the y down here. So x squared equals 4x plus 5. What do I want this equal to? 0. So I'm going to subtract x squared from both sides. So I get 0 equals -x squared plus 4x plus 5. I do not like it when this is a negative out here. How can I get rid of that negative? Divide everything by -1. So that's going to give me 0 equals x squared minus 4x minus 5. Do we have a GCF? Nope. How many terms do we have? 3 terms. So I'm going to do an X and a box for this. A goes up here, so that's x squared. C goes down here, so that's -5. I have to multiply those two coefficients together, the 1 and the -5. So I need 2 numbers that multiply to give me -5. What kinds of things multiply to 5? 1 and 5 multiply to give me 5. What do I want this to add to? -4. What multiplies to -5 but adds to -4? It's got to be -5 and 1. Since my b is negative, the bigger number has to be the -1. So -5x and 1x. Looking at just 2 boxes at a time, what do these two have in common? X. What about down on the bottom? What do these two have in common? 1. Positive or -1? Positive, because it's touching a positive box. What about these two? What do they have in common? X. And these two? -5. All right, so I have 0 equals x plus 1 times x minus 5. What do I do with each one of these factors? Set them equal to 0. X plus 1 equals 0. X minus 5 equals 0. I solve each of these for x. So x is negative 1. Or x is positive 5. Am I done? No. Remember, I need ordered pairs here. How many different x's do I have? 2. In one of these, the x is negative 1. In the other one, the x is 5. How do I find the y parts of the ordered pairs? Substitute x back in. I can use either one of those original equations. You want to use 4x plus 5? Could we use x squared? Yes, you get the same answer either way. If I did x squared, what is negative 1 squared? 1. What is 4 times negative 1? Negative 4. What is negative 4 plus 5? 1. I get the same output either way. How do I find the y that goes with this x? Yep, substitute 5 in. It does not matter which equation you use. What is 5 squared? 25. What is 4 times 5?
20.
Plus 5? 25. I get the same output no matter which equation I use, but you have to find the y parts. All right, very quickly before you guys are out of here, you can go ahead and pack your stuff up, but I want to make sure everybody knows where the answer key is. Tomorrow you have independent work time. I will be here 5th, 6th, and 7th periods, but I will not be conducting class. I'll just be doing a study hall. So if you guys want to come and study with me, if you have that ability, I am fine with that. Yes, ma'am. Do I have what? Somewhere, yes. Give me just a moment. Guys, going to modules, go to today's date. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, here's a PDF blank copy of the review. Down here is my answer key. All right? Let me know if you guys have any trouble accessing that.